So, hello from my side. Okay, so this video is about a topic which I have been researching and trying to understand for past month or so. And I think that that is very important to understand that we understand this subject so well that we block all the holes through which our energy depletes, and we can this can be a preemptive approach to avoid disappointment and not allowing ourselves to be hurt emotionally, because many times part of being human is that we get hurt. And why do we get hurt? That is the thing that I want to understand. So I was in a conversation with a girl, and she eventually pointed out that I was kind of joking that some of his action, or like I was expecting from I was expecting something from her, but she did not do it, or she did not act in that way. So I told her that you hurt me, and she was like, this one phrase that got me thinking was, expectations hurt. And that made me thinking a lot of time, is it so? So given the kind of subjects that I have been juggling through, I got some ideas about the gravity of this subject and why we need to understand expectations. It's everywhere and more or less applicable to everybody. Because being a human, we have the ability to project future. So that is part of our nature, of our existence, of our being. So we cannot avoid that. When we project future, we set expectations. It's right. For example, the key question, you see, just think that you go to sleep last night, right? And what did you expect in the morning? To wake up. That's the expectation. We are given our trust in the process of life, and since we have been waking up every day for the last so many years, like for me it's like more than 25 years. So when I go to sleep, it sets my expectation. I'll get back to you. Let me have a call. Okay, no, let's disconnect. So the thing is that we set an expectation when we go to sleep that we will wake up in the morning, right? So that's a basic example. For example, when we eat something, we have a kind of expectation that our body will be able to digest it and extract the nutrients from it and keeps us running, right? Keeps functional, healthy, and operational. So you see the gravity of the subject. You go to sleep, you may die, but you do not think about that, and you have a positive expectation that you will wake up. At the same time, we set a negative expectations also. Like if we did a mistake, we expect that we might get punished, or we might be held accountable for that. So expectations is all around us, and it's part of life. And the gravity of this subject can, it's very prominent. It's very, very, very prominent. In Buddhism, it says that, Friedrich Nietzsche in his philosophy says that life is suffering, right? Life is suffering. Similarly, in Buddhism, it says like, to add some more bits of knowledge to this subject is this. In Buddhism, it says that desire is the cause of your suffering, right? And what is actually meant by this is that unfulfilled desire is the cause of your suffering. Okay. So desire, right? Desire sits close to expectation. Like desire is something that you willingly desire, that you want something. But expectation is something like you want something to happen as a consequence of some action or a process. For example, people going to school, parents sending their kids to schools, they expect their kids to be educated, right? And his potentials to be realized, developed, and his personality to be groomed by the teachers over there. And it is and suppose now within the students category there are different kinds of students. So if somebody is a bright kid, so people will expect that parents will expect that he should be on top 3 in the classroom, right? So that sets an expectation, and when that expectation is not met, we feel like cheated, betrayed, and hurt. Similar in the case of marriage. People get married, right? And form a long-term relationship. But that act of getting married sets expectation in both the couples. Expectations of what? Expectations of being together till we live, having a happy family, prosperous family, caring for each other, loving each other, going through life together, taking care of parents together, being there for each other. But when these expectations are not met, we feel like cheating, like the couples feel like cheated or betrayed, or somebody betrays. So having a good understanding of expectations in Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill advises to create a desire, because desire is the beginning of all. It is like mother of all the creative pursuits. Without desire, you are like a monk, right? But at the same time, a monk also has a desire to not desire of something or of materialistic things. But you see, desire is a little bit different than expectation. In expectations, we have a firm belief, not firm but loosely held, you can say, or in some cases firmly held, a faith-driven belief that something will happen as a consequence of this event. For example, if I slap you, my expectation would be that you will return me that slap, or I may have an expectation that you never hit somebody, so you are not going to hit me as well. So that's the expectation that I set out about you. So knowing our expectations and aligning them proper with the reality and limitations of people's behavior and their circumstances is very, very important for not getting hurt. Because for example, you go to IIT and initially your expectations were to get a big fat package from some tech companies, and it did not happen, right? And you feel like hurt. But if you had carefully evaluated your expectations, this might reduce the intensity of that hurt feeling. Many youngsters get into relationships. Some are just doing it for fun, like no strings attached, because we cannot get married, so we cannot. So doesn't that mean that we have to wait? We can have that kind of talks, conversations, and physical intimacy, emotional intimacy also, emotional intimacy. So, but at the same at another extreme, there is these youngsters who just slips and take things seriously, and like young teenagers like 16, 18, having a loving relationship with each other and expect to reach a milestone that is marriage, and does not happen, and this hurts most of them, and in many cases they feel broke from within, right? So setting the right expectations and taking things, accepting it as it comes, maybe matching with your expectations and going totally contrary to your expectations. In both ways, you accept it unmoved. This is the right way to think about to handle or manage your expectations. See, management of expectations is also very, very important, because you cannot expect always the best from all. Not you can always expect worst from the happenings of your life most of the time. So you have to juggle it or deal with it very carefully, like an artist. You need to understand that what are the people who are the people who you can count on and set your larger or higher expectations, and at the same time who are the people in your life, maybe in family, friends, or colleagues, to lower your expectations so that you don't get hurt. And because see, the problem with expectation not being met is that there will be an emotional reaction from you in most cases. If you're at the last minutes of you, many people feels this, I have also felt it, like watching a football game, soccer, at the last, suppose your team is behind by one goal, and since the last minute you are expecting that your so good players should be able to score a goal. I mean, there is this expectation that is why you are sticking to your to the show till the last minute. Otherwise, you would have left it, because nobody wants to see their team losing. They want to win, right? So, if they do not score the last goal in the last minute and then does not equalize, you feel, we feel kind of hurt, and we reassess our commitment to the loyalty of that team. So that demands a reaction from us, and that shakes us for a moment, doesn't last. Suppose we are in friends, we are good best friends with somebody, and then that thing is not reciprocated, so we feel hurt. So if you don't want to feel hurt, you should not set expectations. That is one approach, but at the same time you can adjust the expectations, and you have to just acknowledge it and be aware of it, that what you are expecting from what people. And from example, if you are buying a cheap uh, equipment or electronic consumer good, then you should not expect it to last longer. You should not expect performance as compared to the top end within that category, right? So that thing has to be understood. That thing has to be understood properly. Most of the time, we feel like anxious, like reactive. I had been for most of my life reactive, and this is why I am so much into this subject, because I found that this happened due to setting higher expectations from all the moments of my day, and all the people around me, and with all the and from myself. So the first expectation which I set to be higher expectation is with me myself. So when I'm failing to deliver on that expectation, I feel upset about myself, a little bit hurt. And that is why I think the wise people tells you to focus not just on yourself but on the circumstances, because seeing the circumstances you'll get to set the right expectations. Setting the right expectations, if not being met, you might get hurt, right? You might, but that probability of to and the probability of being hurt is like only 1%. That's it. So you minimize the chances of being hurt. For example, some new political party come into power, and our expectations are high that there's a revolution going to happen very soon, and doesn't happen, right? What do you feel? How do you feel? People get emotional, right? They get aggressive, violent, because they cannot accept it that this should have happened, not happening. And there is a mismatch between the reality of my projection, right? Reality of my projection and the actual reality being executed by life or universe in general. So there is a lot to be known and researched about this subject. See, there are negative people who always expect worst, and they're never hurt. And most of the time is the positive thinkers who in turn have positive expectations from day-to-day life, and life in general and from people around him in general, and they get hurt. And the expectation is one dominant factor in this entire process of generation of suffering. So we will talk a lot about this, and even I'm planning to have I discussed with my friend that we could write a book on this, because many young people need to know about this, need to be aware about this. See, one of the expectation, one of the reason this expectation is so big and deep rooted is that we live in the finite boundaries of our limitations as a human being, or like as any other creatures. We all come with our certain limitations. We cannot go beyond that. We can work on it, extending our limitation, expanding it, but again there is a new limitations. There will always be limitations. For example, you cannot stay underwater longer than a certain few minutes. You need to come up with some equipments to extend your capabilities and limitations. Suppose you are traveling on a metro or bus in peak hour. You need to set expectations of rush over there and things like that. Right? For example, a student graduating from a little or less known college and not so talented, he should not expect a big fat package, right? Because there is no demand for you. I mean, you are not scarce. There are many people like you. But if he does expect even a millimeter of expectation of getting a big fat package, she might get hurt. And that's why we need to understand this concept of expectation. The setting the right expectations, aligning our actions and reception to that the right way. That will minimize the hurt feeling that we receive where in our life or in our day-to-day life. But it depends on person to person, also depends on the personality. For example, for brave people who can take it as it comes, whatever it is, maybe sweet or poisonous, for them it won't be that, it won't matter to them much, because they are not sensitive and they are brave. They are ready to deal with the pain. Suppose somebody is going to gym, he should expect pain, right? Somebody who wants to become rich, he should expect working longer hours than anybody else. If somebody wants to be in top-notch healthy condition, he should expect from himself to eat healthy, sleep healthy, live healthy, think healthy. Otherwise, he or she is going to hurt, and that might damage his or her entire worldview and the perspective that can shift from too positive to too negative. So there is a spectrum through which we shift. a teenager getting hurt in a romantic relationship, if she's sensitive, the intensity of that hurt feeling may not allow her to love anybody else or be in a relationship anymore. Even if she wants to, even if she needs to, she will try to suppress her feelings for anybody. But in see, what I'm saying is that understand expectations well, know your expectations, acknowledge it, and judge it. Properly align it with the reality so that there is no mismatch and you don't get hurt. And by the way, expectation is like a very dominant factor in the structure of happiness. Like, for example, you go to catch a flight and the flight is on time, you are on time, you expected it to take off on so and so hours, and it does, you feel happy. And if it doesn't, it gets delayed, the unhappiness starts to breed within us, and this can turn us into a little bit sour, a little bit anxious, no good feeling, more or less bad feeling. But you have set an expectation that you go over there and the plane might get delayed because you had this consideration. Then it helps. There will be no emotional reaction from your side if it does get delayed. So we'll talk more about this in coming days. We will try to. I'll try to do my best to synthesize the work, psychological research, or the spiritual knowledge from various religious scriptures. I will try to simplify it and try to come up with some prominent insights that we can carry with us, that can help us, being and leading a keeping calm life, happy life, and less of emotional reactions, not getting hurt. We'll see each other again very soon. Thank you.